Hello there, Year 9, and welcome to the final part, part 4 of our revision for the organisation section of the biology paper 1. So we've covered quite a lot. I think the last one, part 2 and part 3, were definitely quite big chunks to do. This one is a lot smaller, but it's going to be focusing on plant tissues, organs and systems. So we're going to look at plant tissues, and then we're going to look at some plant organ systems. We're going to be following the same process as the previous ones, so please make sure that you have done the previous 3 organisation revisions before doing this one. How you put your revision is up to you, be it mind maps, continuing on with mind maps or revision cards, or just general notes in your book is absolutely fine. And then once we've done the revision part of it, there'll then be some questions, which means that tomorrow's one will be like last week, where I was put on to show my homework some exam style questions for you to have a go at, and then we'll go over those as a talking mock afterwards. Okay, so let's get started, and we're going to be starting off with plant tissues. Now, plants, like us, you can have the levels of organisation from smallest to largest. So we can see the ranking for the principles of organisation, starting off with the smallest one of the cell, then going up to tissue, which is groups of similar cells that have a function, then organs, which are different tissues performing a function, organ system, which is different organs performing a function, and then the whole organism right at the top. Now, it's normally pretty easy to think of examples for those things for animals, but a lot of people struggle when it comes to plants. So we do need to be aware of organ systems, organs, and tissues in plants, as well as some of the specialised cells that came up in the cell topic. So we've got an example here. Starting off with the smallest one, we have a palisade cell. So palisade cells are specialised cells in plants. They are for photosynthesis, so you find them at the top part of the leaf. They're very long, so maximum amount of light travels through them, and they contain lots of chloroplasts. So those are palisade cells. Now, when you get all of those palisade cells at the top of the leaf, it forms a layer that is called the palisade mesophyll. The palisade mesophyll, along with other ones that we'll look up later, like the spongy mesophyll, the cuticle, the epidermis, things like that, come together to form an organ, which is the leaf. So the leaf is an organ. It's a good one to remember as an organ for a plant. Going up to organ systems, we've got things like the root system. So that is a collection of different organs that are providing a function. And then the root system, along with other systems that we'll look at, come together to form the whole organism, which is the oak tree. So plant tissues that we do need to know about are listed on the right-hand side. So you've got epidermal ones, and they cover the surfaces of the plant. So you find them at the top and the bottom of the leaf, for instance. And we are going to have a structure of the leaf on the next slide. So you'll be able to see that. We've got the palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll, which again are found in the leaf. And the structure of that will come up on the next slide. Then we've got the xylem and the phloem. So these are made of specialized cells, and these are tubes that are found in the vascular bundle. And the xylem transport water and minerals around, and phloem transports glucose and other nutrients around. And then we have the meristem. So this is the undifferentiated cells, the stem cells of the plant, which are found at the roots, the tips of the roots and the shoots. So can we pause this video now? I would suggest getting an example of the principles of organisation in plants, and then making sure that we have put down those different plant tissues that we need to know about. They will be, apart from the meristem, they will be coming up in the next few slides, so you can add to that as we go. So if you could pause the video and do that now, please. Okay, so we're going to move on and we're going to look at the structure of a leaf. Now, the leaf is an organ, which we've already said, and its function is for photosynthesis. So it's where all the photosynthesis in a plant is happening. Now, there are different structures that are found inside a leaf, which is quite hard to imagine because when you look at a leaf, it looks really, really thin. But there's different structures, different tissues that you find to make up that leaf. And the picture is a cross-section of a leaf. So that means if you were going to cut along it, this is what it would look like inside. Now, we do need to know these different parts of a leaf, this cross-section. So we can see that the top is called the cuticle, and this is normally a layer of a lipid that keeps the leaf waterproof. We then have a layer of cells, a single layer of cells that is called the upper epidermis, and that provides protection for the leaf. The next layer down, we have the palisade cells, which make up the palisade mesophyll. That's kind of the middle layer, the middle bit. That's what the mesophyll is. And that's where most of the photosynthesis is happening. Then underneath that, we've got a spongy layer, a spongy mesophyll, and that creates big air spaces that you can see, so that gases can move around, diffuse around the leaf to make sure that the palisade cells are getting carbon dioxide that they need for photosynthesis, but also oxygen for respiration. We then have the bottom bit, which is the lower epidermis, so another layer of cells to add protection for the leaf, and then another cuticle layer to make sure that it stays waterproof. Now, within that lower epidermis, we've got some special cells called guard cells, and they create a space, a little hole, mostly in the underside of the leaf, and those holes are called stomata. So one stoma, several stomata. So can we pause the video and do a very basic sketch of the different layers, the different tissues, I should say, that make up the organ that is a leaf. So pause the video and do that now, please. Okay. So we're now going to have a look at some organ systems. So the leaf is an organ. We're now going to look at some organ systems. So most leaves will have guard cells on the lower epidermis. And that's because you don't want to lose too much water. If they're on the top where the sun is hitting it, they would lose too much water through evaporation. So they tend to be on the underside of the leaf where it is shady. Aquatic plants, so plants that live in water, that doesn't matter. So they don't have those guard cells in particular places. Now, if you look at the pictures that show the stomata, you can see that the guard cells control whether the stomata is open or whether the stomata is closed. And the way that they do that will depend on how much water the plant has. So if the plant has lots of water, then the cells become turgid and open up the hole. If the plant has very little water, then it causes those guard cells to become flaccid, and that will actually close the hole and prevents further water loss. Now that will make up a system which we'll look at for transpiration that includes lots of different parts of the plant. So if we look at the top left box, the roots, stem and leaves form a plant organ system for transportation of substances around the plant. So all of those different organs are involved in transporting different substances around the plant. And that can be water, which goes via the transpiration stream, which comes up on the next slide, or it might be nutrients like glucose that travel along the phloem. So the different parts of the plant make up plant organ systems. So if we could pause the video now, please, and if we could have something about how the stomata open and close, including those key bits like guard cells and flaccid and turgid, and what makes up a plant organ system, I think will be the most important parts from this one. So if we pause the video, and if we could do that now, please. Okay, so we've only got one more slide left. In that, it is talking about two very important processes that keep plants alive. We've got transpiration and we've got translocation. And I've seen several times on exam papers asking for which one it is. So it might say about the water moving, what type of transport is that? Where you would have to obviously put transpiration. So do make sure that you've got these the right way round in your head. So transpiration is all to do with the movement of water, okay? And in that water, there will be minerals. Now, the tissue that transports the water is the xylem tissue, so made up of xylem cells, which are specialized cells. And they will go from the roots all the way up through the plant, through the stem, to the leaves, where the water will evaporate from the leaf. Now, that evaporation from the leaves of water actually pulls up more water from the ground, from the roots, and that causes something called the transpiration stream. The rate of transpiration will be affected by a few factors that we need to know about, which include temperature, humidity, so how much water there is in the air movement, so how windy it is, and light intensity. So transpiration will increase if there is a higher temperature, a lower humidity, higher air movement, and higher light intensity. So the humidity one is the one that we need to remember, that the more humid it is, the less transpiration there is. And if you think about it, if there's more water in the air around the plant, then the diffusion of that water will be a lot slower because it's not got such a large difference between the concentrations. So it's not got a large concentration gradient. Translocation is the other way in which plants take substances around themselves, and in translocation we're using the phloem tissues, made up obviously of phloem cells. Now phloem tissues transport sugars that have been made in the leaves from photosynthesis and take it around the rest of the plant, and that will either be used for respiration in the cells, or it might be stored away as starch. The phloem are composed of those elongated specialized cells that have got pores in the ends of their walls. So when they're stacked up on top of each other, as we can see in the picture, you've got these plates that have got holes in, which make sure that only the right size substances can move through. Cell sap can move from one phloem cell to the next through the pores in the end walls, which is what I was just talking about. So the cell sap contains those small sugars and things like that. They can pass through those holes, whereas larger molecules cannot. Okay, so can we pause the video now and make sure we have got about transpiration and translocation. So we need to know what the tissue is that is doing it. We need to know what it is that is being moved around and how that happens. And for transpiration, we also need to know what will increase the rate of transpiration. So if you could pause the video and do that now, please. Okay, so hopefully we have now got a completed set of revision notes or map or cards, whatever it is that you wanted to use for the organisation chapters. We're now going to do some questions on what we've just covered, and then, as I say, tomorrow will be questions that are on all of the different organisation revisions that we've done this week and last week. So we're going to start off with these 4 questions, and there's only 2 slides. So we're only going up to question 10 on these. So make sure you're putting in the time to answer these correctly. So question number 1, what is a plant tissue? And remember, tissue will be the same in all organisms. So if you can't remember from plants, it'll be the same as with animals. Number 2, complete the table for the 5 types of plant tissues. So we've got the different plant tissues, so you need to include a description of it and a function, so what it does. Number 3, what is the role of the leaf organ? Pretty straightforward on that one, don't think I need to give any clues. Number 4, what is the role of the guard cells? So what do the guard cells do? So if you could pause the video now and answer those questions, please. Okay, next set of questions, and the last ones are the questions. Number 5, what is a plant organ? And again, it's going to be the same definition as with animals. Number 6, name the organs in the plant organ system that transport substances around the plant. So which are the organs that move stuff around the plant to make up the organ system? Number 7, what is the role of the root hair cell? So this came up in specialised cells. It was on the slide, but I didn't spend too much time on it. But what is the role on the root hair cell? Question 8, what is transpiration? Question 9, what is translocation? And finally, number 10, what factors increase the rate of transpiration? And you should have 4 in number 10. So if you could pause the video now and have a go at those questions. Okay, so hopefully you've attempted those questions. So we'll go through answers now. So question number 1, what is a plant tissue? It's a group of similar cells working together to perform a function. Number 2, the epidermal covers the surface of the plant for protection. The palisade mesophyll, packed with chloroplast, is where photosynthesis happens. Spongy mesophyll, large air spaces for gas exchange or movement of gases. Xylem and phloem, they form the vascular bundles that transport water, minerals and glucose or sugars around the plant. The meristem is found in tips of roots and shoots, and it's where cell differentiation occurs, or where you have your undifferentiated cells. What is the role of the leaf organ? Photosynthesis, the main one, but it does, like other cells, perform respiration as well. Number 4, what is the role of guard cells? To open and close to let gases diffuse in and out. Number 5, what is a plant organ? So it's a group of tissues working together to carry out a function, so the same as with animals. Number 6, name the organs that transport substances around: the stem, the leaves, and the roots. Number 7, what is the role of a root hair cell? It takes in, you might have said, through osmosis for the water, an active transport for minerals, but that doesn't matter. If you knew that, brilliant. Takes in water and minerals from the soil. Number 8, what is transpiration? It's the movement of water and mineral ions from the roots to the stems and leaves. What is translocation? It's the movement of dissolved sugars from the leaves. Number 10, what factors increase the rate of transpiration? Temperature, humidity, air movement, and light intensity. So hopefully we did well on those. Any that you got wrong, you need to make sure that you go back to your revision notes and add information into your revision notes covering what it is that you did not get correct. Tomorrow on Show My Homework, I will add the questions. So you need to do the questions. And then in the next lesson, we'll start going over the answers to those. So thank you very much for taking part on these revisions for organisation. I'll try and think of a different way to do the next one, just to keep it a bit fresh and also so you can see different ways of doing it. But other than that, that is it from me. So have a lovely day and you'll hear from me soon. Take care. Thank you very much and goodbye.